Hey everybody, this is the Patzer, and this is the chess.com puzzle for March 30th, 2019. As you can see, it's an endgame, and I'm delighted to say that this is a game that doesn't end in a stalemate. If you've been listening to my other uh, broadcasts, you know that I'm not a big fan of stalemates, even though where white is concerned, or where either side is concerned, a stalemate is always preferable to a loss. And of course, if you're playing professionally, that's absolutely the case. But in any case, here's the setup, and as you can see, it's another race to pawn promotion. And of course, white looks like it's uh, much better situated. It's got a pawn that's two moves away from promotion, but of course that black king is right there, hot on its tail. So let's take a look and see what happens according to chess.com. So white, not surprisingly, wants to get promoted. That pawn moves in. The black king follows. The white king then moves up. Obviously, it has its choice of pawns to take. And this was the first move that surprised me a little bit, because, I thought that black would simply take the pawn in that situation. And then I was further surprised when white decided also not to take the pawn, and surprised again when black continued to dally and didn't want to take the pawn. So I was then, I suppose, gratified to see white willing to take that pawn. And at this point, what's interesting is that black really has no choice. Black has got to take that pawn. And it turns out that this particular situation is very important for white, because the white and black knights are facing off against each other. They're both on the same file, and it's important when white and black are in the situation that uh, it be black is the last one to move. In other words, from this situation, white can step out of the way, to step out of a direct face-off, and black, in this case, decides to move that pawn down, and here is a Patzer problem extraordinaire. And it's such an extraordinary problem that I decided to uh, lay it out. Here it is. Now, as a Patzer, I thought, well, really, what difference does it make whether the king takes the pawn or the pawn takes the pawn? Is there a difference? Well, yeah, it turns out there's a very big difference. So let's see what happens when the pawn takes the other pawn as opposed to the king taking it, okay? Oh, and by the way, when you're in this situation and you're white, it's all over, because you can't. I mean, if you go here, well, it's stalemate, right? Because the black king can't move. All right, so your only alternative is to go someplace else, and any place else you go, whether it's here or here or here or here or here, well, you know, the black king can take the pawn and it's a draw. So, you know, in this situation, as it turns out, the proper move for white, and this is the move that um, chess.com shows black making, and that's to have the king take the pawn. And here's why. Now the white king has been able to get around the king, the black king, and it's got the wiggle room it needs. Right here, we can see that the white king can get that black king out of the way, that d8 square, which the pawn needs to arrive at to be promoted, is now totally available to white. And not surprisingly, it's all over, you know. There's nothing black can do here. And it's checkmate. But once again, white does that little dance there, as does black. You know, I don't want to take the pawn, you take the pawn, I'll take the pawn, kind of thing. And then here, it turns out to be hugely important for the white king to take that pawn and not the white pawn to take that pawn. Again, it's a classic Patzer situation where a Patzer like me will blow it. I played this situation. I took the pawn to take the other pawn. I thought it wouldn't make any difference. Well, I was totally wrong. And once again, that's why I'm the Patzer. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the puzzle for today. And as always, as the Patzer usually likes to say, get out from behind the 8 ball and play some better chess. Bye, everybody.